Hi, everyone. My name is Chien Hung, and I am the Program Director of Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program at Voice. Ombudsman Program, it is a federally mandated program for all 50 states in the United States, and it simply means advocate. My program advocates for residents that live in long-term care. Now, in Missouri, long-term care particularly means skilled nursing facilities, intermediate care facilities, residential care facilities, and assisted living facilities, these four levels. Now, so we are talking about residents in long-term care and their rights today. Okay. So this project is actually supported by HRSA, and it is a project that is completed by both SLU, St. Louis University, as well as us at Voice, the long-term care ombudsman program at Voice. And so I don't have any financial conflict to disclose for today's presentation. Now, the objectives for today, we're of course going to talk about the long-term care resident rights. We're going to talk about if a resident loses any rights after they move into a long-term care community. Now, also, we want to learn how to help long-term care residents exercise their rights. Okay. Now, um, resident rights actually are actually protected by the federal laws here, and we want to talk about all of these rights, and I'm gonna categorize them into different categories. Okay. The first one, it is about their right, residents' right to dignified existence. And a resident does not lose any dignity after they move into a long-term care. Okay, so they should be treated with a consideration, with respect, with dignity, and then they are free. They should be free from abuse, neglect, exploitation, as well as restraint and retaliation and all of these mistreatment for long-term care residents or for older adults, and they should not happen. Okay. Of course, freedom from physical or chemical restraints, quality of life is maintained or improved. Now they should exercise their rights without interference, without the discrimination. And then a home-like environment has to be provided in a nursing community. Okay, and then also they need to have quality care, and that there should be security for their possessions. Okay, so as you can see, all of these are considered as dignified existence. Now, while they have all of these rights, my previous slides asked if there is any right that is not maintained in a facility, and unfortunately, yes. And what is that? So one example would be, well, a lot of residents, if they smoke cigarettes at home, smoke cigars at home, now in a long-term care community, long-term care facility, can they smoke in their own home, in their own room, even though that is considered a home-like environment? Unfortunately, the answer is no, they cannot. That is federal regulation. That is also the state regulation. So one right they do have to lose is to smoke in their own room or in their own apartment in a long-term care facility. Because at the end, you have other people, you have all other residents in the same building with you. And then everyone's safety is important. So for everyone to be safe in the facility, then we have to give up on that right to smoke in their own room. However, can you smoke outside? Sure. A lot of facilities, they do allow that. A lot of facilities, though, on the other hand, when you first move in, you have to sign a contract to say, and then you are notified that this is not a property that permits smoking. Okay, so it depends on each different facility's own policy, so you need to check with the facility. Okay. And then free from abuse restraint, and that restraint, it includes chemical restraint. Okay. Now, self-determination. So all of these, you can choose your own activities, you can choose your schedules, your healthcare, your providers, your pharmacy, all of these, right? And then you can a resident, they should have reasonable accommodation for their needs and preferences. And then I'm not gonna read all of these. You guys can read yourself. Now, what I want to point out is the last one. Every resident, you have the right to refuse. To refuse what? Well, to refuse activities. I don't like bingo. I do not want to play bingo. You cannot make me play bingo. Okay. Well, I don't like water aerobic. You cannot make me go to water aerobic. I do not like to participate in any activities. I want to be in the room by myself, watching my Netflix, reading my books. Okay, I have right to refuse. Now, can I refuse treatment? Yes, absolutely yes. So I can refuse my treatment. So I do not like to take this pill because this pill makes me constipate. Right? I do not want that. I want to not take the pill. Sure, you have the right to do so. Now, don't forget, it is also the facility's responsibility to try to provide the best care possible to you, right? So therefore, you have the right, a resident, you have the right to refuse your care. A facility, they have their responsibility to help you. Well, Mr. So-and-so, you do not like to take this pill because it makes you constipate. Now, why don't we talk to the doctor and see if we can find a different placement, different option for this regimen? Okay, so that is what a facility needs to accommodate, needs to do in order to help. Okay, you have the right to participate in your care, of course. You have the right to choose your own doctor and your own pharmacy. Now, some facilities, especially assisted living, they sign contracts with certain pharmacies, for example, and then they would tell you upon the moving, and they would tell you that, well, this pharmacy A is the pharmacy that we contract with, and then you certainly can use this pharmacy A, and then no processing fee for pharmacy A that you want to choose. However, if you want to stick to the pharmacy B that you've used for many years, you certainly can do that, but unfortunately, we're gonna have to charge you $50 a month. We're gonna have to charge you $80 a month for some procedural fee or processing fee. If that's the case, they have to put that in the contract for you to look at, for you to review, for you to know, and for you to sign upon the moving. Okay. So a resident, they have the right to be fully informed of the following. Okay, so what kind of care the change of plan, care plan, rules and regulations, the contact information of the ombudsman. Okay, and then also the state surveyors, and then the state surveys reports and the written notice before change the room, change in the room or roommate, and notices of different kinds of notices and information in different languages. Okay, now if they don't have such a version of language that that this resident can do, can read, can understand, then they have to actually reach out. A facility should reach out to translation services, and then just so the purpose is for a resident to be able to comprehend, to understand the services and whatever is going on around them, and through their language through a translator. Okay, so fully informed. So this is a little bit more information that you guys can read. Okay, so a resident has every right to raise grievances without worrying about retaliation, retribution. Okay, and then so you would think that, well, if I were a resident, then I'm gonna complain about something that happened in the nursing home. How do I know I'm not gonna be ratted out, right? That's a fair question. Now, just remember that when you make a complaint with the ombudsman program regarding your nursing home, when you make a complaint with to Department of Health and Senior Services, to the surveyors about the nursing home, all of this is confidential. Okay, we've all heard about this term HIPAA, right? And that is Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, which was passed in 1996. So that's HIPAA. And then so we cannot violate HIPAA. Okay, so whatever you share with a government entity, with ombudsman program, with a medical professional, it has to be kept in confidence. Okay, without your consent, nothing can be disclosed. And then even if let's say you agree for my program to actually intervene for you, we don't have to disclose any personal information about you. Okay, you can voice your grievance, of course. You have the right of access to the below. Okay, so the right of access to individual services, community members, activities inside and outside the facility, and you have the right of access to visitors, to personal and medical records, to the personal physician and representatives from the state survey agency and long-term care ombudsman program. And then you have the right of access to assistance if sensory impairment exists, right? So for example, you have visual or hearing impairment, and then you have the right to participate in social and religious and community activities. Okay, no problem there. So you have the right to keep your possessions. Now, let's keep in mind though, you have a lot of belongings in your own home, sure. Now, when we move into a community, a long-term care community, a facility, your personal space might become significantly smaller. Therefore, we need to be very, very mindful about what to keep and what to give away, what not to keep, right? Because the bottom line is this: while you have every right to keep your belongings, to keep your possessions, that cannot be creating any danger situation, so your pathway to safety has to be assured. Okay, so if you have a lot of things, a lot of positions that kind of cluttered the entire room, and you cannot get out of your room safely, that's a problem here. So keep your positions. Sure, of course, that is your right, but we need to also consider the safety of the situation. Okay. Marital privileges, no problem. You do not get a divorce when you go into a nursing home. Okay, you don't have to. Um, right to you have the right to your financial affairs. Sure, of course. You can manage your own finances, sure. That is if you don't have a guardian, you don't have a conservator, you don't have an active power of attorney that help you manage your finances. However, even if you have an active power of attorney, conservator that help you manage your finances, you still can have your own input about what you want to do with your own money. Okay, and also, let's not forget, a facility has to provide detailed breakdown kind of bill to monthly bills to the residents about what they've spent and then their spending pattern, all of that. Okay, that's a requirement for a facility. Responsible party, well, that's a legal term. So what responsible party means? It is your power of attorney, it is your legal representative, it is your guardian, it is someone that can make decisions for you when you cannot make decisions for yourself anymore. Okay. Now, your responsible party, for example, your guardian, they cannot, a facility cannot ask you to have your guardian, have your responsible party, have your power of attorney to sign to guarantee the payment will be made. Okay. Um, you can buy anything you want. You can buy any services you want. That is if they are not illegal, first of all. And secondly, again, the goods that you purchase, it cannot become a cluttering situation. Okay, pathway to safety. Let's not forget. You have the right to your privacy, sure. Let's again not forget about HIPAA. HIPAA is very, very important. Your privacy, your medical related information have to be protected. Okay. So you can communicate freely, sure, of course. And then if you don't have a phone in your room, then a facility, they have to make sure you have access to a phone. Maybe it's a phone in the nursing station. Sure, that's fine. You have to have the access to communication to the outside world. Okay. Confidentiality, we talked about it. Of course, this has to be guaranteed. Okay. Now, let's say if you did not pay your rent, did not pay the fees that you're supposed to pay, can a nursing home discharge you? Sure, they are within their right to discharge because they provide services. They provide foods. They provide laundry help to you, and then you eat their food. You utilize their services, and then as a resident, you need to pay, right? Because you are the consumer. However, if you don't pay, they have the right to discharge you. But then do you have the right to appeal? Yes, you have every right to appeal this discharge. No matter which kind of discharge, you have the right to appeal. There are two different kinds of discharges. One is called 30-day discharge. For example, if you don't pay your rent, they have to issue you a 30-day discharge. They cannot issue you an emergency discharge, okay? But then that means there's a different kind of discharge that's called emergency discharge, and that is, well, that you are endangering yourself or others, you are harming yourself and others, and we have to discharge you right now, okay? Maybe send you to the hospital so that you can get better care there, okay? Now, no matter which kind of discharge, a resident can appeal that. No problem there, okay? And then after the appeal, you get to remain in the facility until the state's appeal officer or hearing officer, after they review the case, after they have their hearings with all the parties involved, and then until that decision about you stay or you leave, until that decision is made, a resident gets to stay in the facility. Okay. Now, this is all the important information references that you can click, and then you can look at the more information if you need. Okay. Any questions? This is my email on the bottom. Feel free to reach out to me, and then if there's any questions I can help you with, I am here. No problem. Thank you.